I don't know what was going on in those days, but we didn't go back. And so Jim Crow kicked in. Genocidal. No voting, limited education, no rights. It's just how you treat people when you want them to go away. You ever had people over your house and you didn't want them there? Maybe because you wanted to get frisky with your wife, and you guys came here on date night. And we like you. We want you to go, though, because it's date night. The kids are over their friend's house or their relative's house, and me and the wife are finna get busy. And here you guys drop by unannounced. And so we start acting funny because we don't want you there. It's not that we don't like you. We might even love you. But it's date night, and you're blocking. So you got to leave. You treat folks bad. So they say, I know when I'm not wanted. I'm going to get up and leave. And you say, okay, no problem. We'll see you next time. It's love. You know, it's date night, though. Oh, it's date night. Oh, we get it. Okay. Explain yourself. It's date night, and y'all just stopped by at the wrong time. And so they treated African Americans like, say, listen, we don't want you here. And so Marcus Garvey came along in the early 1900s, early 20th century, went back to Africa. And some people went back to Africa, except Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey didn't go back to Africa. I think Marcus Garvey died in New York City, New York State, somewhere over there in New York City, if I'm not mistaken. The man died in America or the Caribbean. He was from Jamaica, and somebody must have recruited the guy to get black folks to go back to Africa. And black people didn't bite. They didn't go back to Africa. Some did. Black people were suffering it out. And we had a doctrine that helped us to suffer. It was the Christian Bible. The Christian Bible helped African Americans endure the hardships because God Almighty was going to make it all better someday. And He did. And so in the 1960s, things got a little bit better. And it cost some great people their lives. Even some people that were duplicitous and maybe even multiplicitous. But things got a little bit better. But the white man turned up the screws of genocide then, even more. The technology got better because we had these brilliant Nazi scientists helping us out. America's genocidal devices changed when the Nazis came here. In the 1930s, America was looking at bacterial warfare. We know so because of the Tuskegee study. Syphilis is a bacteria. And the Pentagon was studying how to use syphilis as a device to population control. And by the end of the World War II, and the Nazis came here, America had shifted by the mid-50s to viruses. No doubt because the Germans were doing viruses over there in Germany before the war. Nazi scientists shifted America from bacteria to viruses. And what was the first virus that got deployed? The polio vaccine. People say, well, polio vaccine was very effective. I'm not going to argue with you about that because I wasn't born then. And I believe what people say. The polio vaccine was effective. But it was also a means to sneak in covertly some vaccines or some bottles of fluid that were harmful. And it could be that the whole hype about polio was just hype. They said we eradicated polio, but we eradicated a lot of people with vaccination programs as well. If you look at global fertility, especially in America and in the Americas, you will see that fertility began to drop when vaccination programs began. People went from 6 kids per family, 7 kids per family, down to today, less than 2 children per family in 60 years. Went from 6 to 8 kids per family down to less than 2, as it is today. And it is birth control, it's vaccination, it's eugenics, a fully integrated eugenics program in the land of America. And America has fallen because of pride, because the Bible says thou shalt not kill. Before we got to the thou shalt not kill problem, they violated another commandment. The Lord, you should have no other God before me. Worship the Lord thy God and him only. I'm a jealous God, and I visit the iniquity of the fathers upon the children for the 3rd and 4th generation, but I show mercy to thousands that love me and keep my commandments. That was the first commandment that went by the wayside. And that led to the violation of every other commandment, including the Christian Sabbath day. Christians used to keep the Sabbath day in America. That went by the wayside. Christians used to have Sunday as a Sabbath day. Sunday, everything shut down. You went to church. Even Klansmen had a lynching on Saturday night and church on Sunday morning. And you didn't play football on Sunday. You didn't play basketball on Sunday. Sunday was a Sabbath day. And that slipped because people start slipping in their fear of God. They started to do like Adam did, not take God seriously. Oh, don't take all that. God is just not that pressed about it. He don't care if we have football on Sunday. He don't care if we have NBA basketball and hockey on Sunday and soccer on Sunday. He doesn't care. God's not that uptight. And God didn't make hell. If he's a God of love, he didn't make hell. It's because he's a God of love he made hell. And because them fools will be in heaven with us. Them same rascals that's tearing up the earth, they'd be in heaven tearing up heaven. So God separated us from them wicked people, and he sent them to hell. And only those that are approved of God are going to go to heaven. Those that pass the test. Those that overcome in life. Overcome the world by faith in Jesus Christ. So America's fallen. And I think I'm about to run out of tape here tonight, and I might as well go ahead and begin to sum it up. America's fallen. It has fallen. America's already fallen. When the OPEC tells President Biden, we're not going to increase oil output for you. Us and the Russians agree we're not going to increase oil output for you. When Saudi Arabia is supposed to be a friend of America now. When we've been dealing with Oman and all the, Arab Emirates. We conquered Libya. Yet these rascals, we got friends in Nigeria. Nigeria is a part of OPEC. And, they said to us recently, we're not going to increase output to lower gas prices in America. And Russia agrees with us. It's the fall of America. When America leaves Afghanistan and the Taliban take over the country immediately, it looks like the fall of America. It might not be. It might be that America accomplished her objectives in Afghanistan and they handed the country over to the Taliban. So the Taliban can continue to kill. Because that's what the Taliban are going to do. The Taliban are going to kill a lot of people. Because the people are going to rebel against Sharia and conservative Islam. And they're going to rebel against the restrictions on women. And them fools are going to go on a killing spree. The Taliban. And America don't care. We've done that before in Vietnam. We don't care. We accomplished our objectives, whatever they were. We can all guess about what the objectives were. Because one thing is clear, the objective was not destroying Taliban. Because you can't destroy Taliban in 20 years, and they're riding around on camels, and they got limited technology. We got satellites that can find them, no matter where they are. We can see their campfires at night from outer space. America's falling. The danger in this season is that if the global community boycotts America sufficiently, America is going to war. That might be why we're pulling out of Afghanistan. Because we might be facing trouble from the nations sufficient to warrant going to war in another theater over oil, because America needs oil. I said to you guys a couple years ago, America, technically speaking, in our reserve, we got 11 years of oil reserve. And we're going to import a lot of oil every year to keep that reserve from dwindling. You know, the reserve really doesn't dwindle from year to year unless you're importing less oil to the nation than you are consuming. And generally speaking, that's not the case. We import enough oil to keep the reserve steady. But what happens if you can't get any more oil imports? You got 11 years till you run out. And oil prices are going to skyrocket. I am a chemical engineer. I worked in oil refineries. And, you know, you got a reserve that's designed for war, really. The reserve was built for wartime. And, you know, America probably never considered that our offshore stuff that we own, it was going to run dry. And it has run dry, right? Not just offshore, but onshore. It's drying up. And so the XL pipeline, stuff like that, it seems like a environmental issue, but baby, we might have to tear up the environment to keep the country running. I know Native Americans don't want that pipeline running through their homelands and burial grounds, and they should have never run it through there. But we need some oil. America might have to go to war, and probably will, just to get more oil. And, you know, that's a national security issue, getting more oil. And so America's falling when OPEC ain't scared of America. OPEC is not afraid of Joe Biden. That's a sign that more than just OPEC and Russia have an attitude with us. And America's problem is, if all the nations on this planet rebel against America and start boycotting us and stop sending us raw materials, then we can't fight everybody at the same time. Even though we got 7,000 plus nukes, if we nuke them, we're still not going to get the resources. We won't even be able to go get them ourselves because of the radiation that's going to be contaminating the environment. So America can't whoop everybody. That means America needs to be more diplomatic and humbler. America's falling because of pride. Because they started playing around with the devil long before they really start thinking about assassinating people of color on a global basis. And it's apparent to me, beloved ones, from a cursory survey of the data, that they're whitening up the planet. They're whitening up the planet. The indigenous people of the earth were kind of Afro. If you look at a map of the world, you see the continent of Africa, you see all that ocean off to the east. And you can have an unencumbered sail, if you will, straight to the islands in the Pacific. just sail south of India and keep on going. You'll run into the Pacific Islands somewhere. If you don't, you're going to hit America. You keep on going, you're going to roll around to North America and Central America. And so that stuff was going on thousands of years ago. The black folks were getting in boats and going everywhere, including to America. And so the European discovered that. And I heard that the English in particular had a policy, any lands they discovered, they were going to confiscate as their own and dispossess the indigenous people, including genocide. Although they didn't put the genocide in writing. They were saying, when we discover land, the royal crown is going to appropriate it, regardless of how the indigenous people felt about it. We're going to subjugate the indigenous and take the land. Well, that appropriation ended up in a lot of genocide. And the pattern is very similar from place to place. Sickness and disease, people dying, and they got weak, and the Europeans slowly but surely took over. Hawaii is a great example. Hawaii is a great example. Just about 200 years ago, the Hawaiians, maybe 240 years ago now, the Hawaiians had a Afro-Asian community. They had King Kamehameha. Everybody's heard of King Kamehameha. He was an Afro kind of guy, according to images on the internet. And his children were Afro, but King Kamehameha's children began to mix with white folk and marry white people. Their children got lighter and lighter. And Captain Cook, they say, reportedly infected the island with disease, even venereal disease. And they say within 100 years, the Hawaiian people, the indigenous, were almost 90% diminished. And I question that 90% number because I see that 90% number reported everywhere. They report 90% everywhere, and it couldn't possibly be 90% everywhere. But it is clear today, when you go to Hawaii, that the indigenous people are greatly diminished. I don't know about the 90% number, but I do know today that the royal crown of the Hawaiian is basically defunct. And the royal family, I think, might be coming down from Kamehameha. I think they might be extinct. And, this is the policy of the crown. Any lands that we bump into, if we can, we're going to appropriate. And we're going to dispossess the people. This is what is in the future for Africa. The Africans, they desire to dispossess them. They have done it in North Africa. The North Africans are all but extinct. The Amazigh people, they're gone. They used to call them the Moors. They're all but gone. Now the people living in North Africa are enslaving black people that come from Sub-Sahara. And the black folks are going to Europe from North Africa to be enslaved in Europe as menial labor, cab drivers and stuff like that. So the white man is lightening up the planet. And he's lightening it up enough, I think, for the Lord Jesus Christ. And Christ is going to diminish the lightning because Western civilization is falling. Not just America, because the Europeans have done a whole lot of killing too. In fact, more killing, no doubt, than America had. America's been a republic, 245 years now. But the Europeans go back thousands of years. And probably about 900 years ago, the Europeans began some kind of process of lightening up the planet, at least lightening up Europe. Began to do some ethnic cleansing, no doubt, 900 years ago, the European Renaissance, right there in Europe. And it continues to this day. It is a secret society kind of operation. But here's the problem. They fill their cup up and they don't fear God anymore. And that's why they fill their cup up. They fill their cup up because they don't fear God. And they've fallen. Whether they know it or not, they have fallen. I can tell because God is embarrassing them in the marketplace terribly. They got men who are normally used to killing anybody they want to kill. And they got maybe one guy in America that they want to kill, but they can't. And one man said at the NFL game last week, he was maybe a Ku Klux Klan member, because I asked God to hit the Klan, and he got hit. And he started going gay right in front of the TV. And the man said, "You're going to destroy America." How can I destroy America if God ain't with me? And maybe it's not me to destroy America. Maybe it's your killing spree for the last 245 years in America and during the colonial era. And then the Portuguese and the Spanish in Central and South America and different locations around the world, including the Pacific Islands and Oceania, who have experienced genocide as well. Australia is a country that has committed genocide against the indigenous people. That genocide is ongoing. If they keep going, they're going to eliminate the Aborigines of Australia. And they're working toward that goal. There's islands out in the Pacific we have never heard of. Islands in the Pacific Ocean and Oceania we've never heard of. And they're experiencing genocide of the darkies. When guys say, "You guys filled your cup up now, we're cutting it off right here. You don't fear me. You don't keep my commandments. I told you not to worship the devil. I said worship me and me alone. Be monotheistic. You haven't done that. I told you to keep the Sabbath day holy. You haven't done that. I told you not to kill. You haven't done that. I told you not to commit adultery, and you haven't done that. I told you not to covet what your neighbor has, which is land, or his spouse, or his money, or his crops, or his gold, or his diamonds, or his oil. I told you not to covet what your neighbor has, but you haven't obeyed me." Listen, we can't keep 612 commandments that God gave to Moses. We can't even keep 10. We can't even keep the 10 commandments. How are you going to keep the 613, 612 if you can't keep 10? I told you to have no other gods before me, and you have not obeyed me. I told you to have no graven images of anything and fall down and worship them. But the loser, Robert E. Lee, and Jefferson Davis still have statues in America, everywhere. And even a man that, quite frankly, did not succeed, Martin Luther King, has a statue, a limestone statue in Washington, D.C. I've been there, and I have a picture standing in front of it with my family. And so, we haven't obeyed the no statue, no graven image, we haven't obeyed it. We got plenty of idols. What's that in the mountain out there where you got the 4 presidents? Where you got Washington, and you got Lincoln, and you got a couple other guys carved out of the rock in the mountain. images of worship. In the first generation, they're not going to worship George Washington because they knew him. And he was just an ordinary guy. But by the third or fourth generation, Washington's become a god. The man who chopped down the cherry tree. And what they don't tell you about Washington, he was chasing this black slave woman around and just about lost his mind trying to find that woman. I think he finally did. He would not let that woman go. She ran away. And he chased her down till he found her. And there was something going on with that, guys. And he loved that woman so much that he couldn't let her go. And I do understand what his problem was. Lust. And so Lincoln is also a guy. He freed the slaves. But in the first generation, he was despised by America. He ended slavery. He was despised. But, 3 or 4 generations later, he's a great liberator. And we got a carving of him on the mountain at Mount Rushmore, is it? Something like that. And it's an object of worship. We have not kept the commandments of God. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Let's talk about stealing. You made a covenant and said, okay, we're going to have this part of the land, and you Native Americans going to have that part of the land. And after a while, you said, we're not going to honor the covenant. We're going to, because we can, we're going to take the land that we gave to you. Well, that's stealing. Because you made a covenant that's eternal. A covenant is eternal. It's like getting married. You're only supposed to do that one time. And you made a covenant of marriage. You're supposed to stick it out in marriage until the death of one of the spouses. And the bottom line is, America don't fear God. America refuses to keep God's commandments. So America has fallen. And America's fallen to the point where white men are crying in the land of America, more than just a few. And they're saying this man in Oak Park, Michigan is destroying America. It is not so. A man in Oak Park, Michigan told you America was going to fall in February 2015. And he told you why. Because of pride. And pride is defined biblically. One of the ways to define it is a lack of fear of God and refusal to obey God's commandments. Even the 10 commandments, let alone the law of Moses and the law of Christ, is not being obeyed either. Because America is a land full of fornication. America is a land, no doubt, that sacrifices animals to idols. America strangles, that's the other commandment, don't eat nothing strangled. America is probably strangling certain animals that people eat. And I don't know if America is eating blood, but somebody in America might be eating blood. So you see, Jesus Christ is the Lord. He's kept his part of the bargain. He said, if you forget about me, I'm going to come in and remove your mantle of authority and rulership and give it to somebody else. He's done it before, and he's going to do it again. He's doing it right now. And the white man's hegemony over the earth is over. It's over. It's just a matter of time for, all the cards to fall, and the dominoes to fall where they may. My guess is going to really end and fall in warfare. Because as the powers that be recognize that they're losing their hegemony, they're going to fight about it. They're going to fight to keep it. They're going to become less and less civilized and more violent. We're going to have a real crystal knot. Not like Germany had. And crystal knot in Germany Maybe 90 people died and they burned up a bunch of synagogues and businesses, maybe some homes. This Christian night, they plan to kill thousands and tens of thousands, maybe even millions. Not just 90 people. And they're not planning to just kill 6 million folks. They might be planning to kill 120 million folks. But it's not going to succeed because God has departed from them because of pride. America's fallen because of pride. And there's going to be a new balance of power. And if that new balance of power does not fear God and refuses to keep his commandments, it's going to crumble as well, probably in short order. Probably in short order. I believe America's first attempts at government failed. And then they had to do something else. If I'm not mistaken, in American history, whatever came out of the 1776 thing really didn't work out. So they had to go back to the drawing board, and by 1883, they had to work some stuff out at the end of the war. The first design of government, I think, failed, if I'm not mistaken. The first republic didn't survive. And they ended up having to do something else that did survive until this day. But now that's fallen because of a lack of fear of God, refusing to keep his holy commandments. And so what I say to America is suck it up. America brought this thing upon herself because of pride, a lack of fear of God, and a refusal to keep God's commandments. The injustices of slavery, the injustices of Jim Crow, the injustices of the post-Jim Crow era has filled a cup up. The injustices in foreign lands. When America's scientific community got to the point where they could do harm to the nations through the United Nations device, they did it. And they spread harmful viruses. America went viral. Probably back in the 1950s, at the end of World War II, America went viral from bacteria. And we got HIV/AIDS, a virus. Ebola, a virus. Coronavirus is a virus. Avian influenza is a virus. It's all viral. America went viral. No doubt because of them low-down German Nazis that came to America, and they're embedded in American society today. And their kids have their values, and their grandkids have the values of them